Anita, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tina.
Oh, good afternoon. Okay. Guess we're waiting for Tony and Knock.
Well, Knock is here with me, and Tony will not join until 1:30. He had a conflict.
Oh, okay.
Who else do you have on the line?
Okay, great.
This is
Richard is on the line, and myself, and that's it.
And then I might have one of my staff, oh, here she is, one of my staff members is going to join with us, Cheryl Thomas.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Well, guys, why don't we just get started then, since it looks like it's going to be the group that we're going to be sharing with. What the meeting is about is not, you and I had a discussion at the kickoff, and we were thinking that it would be really good to try to get an idea very specifically, as much as we can, of the types of documents and processes and maybe even procedures that you guys currently use to help monitor compliance across the groups. And that's really the objective of this meeting, is to kind of identify those different work items or documents or even process and procedures that help do that. I know we're going through a change, and so the as-is probably is going to be changing to a to-be here fairly soon. And this is a great time, really, I think, to begin thinking about it and putting some of those new or conceptual process, procedures, and documents in place. So,
and also, Ken, you probably are aware, it's an opportune time as well, because the Sponsor Programs Office is a fairly new office at ACS. So
exactly, yeah.
We have as-is things that we do. It's just kind of informal. Just we do what we do. Well, not everything. Some things are formal, but some things are informal.
Okay.
As we are bringing on Flux, we're in the process of formalizing processes anyway. So it really is a good time.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to do was probably have you talk more than us. I mean, we want to just listen to what you currently have, and maybe just what's on your plate. What really the mission is, and what you currently do. So we could. It could just be a dialogue.
Do you want to work from that workflow that Tony prepared?
Well, we could do that. I mean, I don't. That's a great place to start. I mean, Richard and Tony put something really pretty well together, and SPO is clearly a very important part of that. If that helps you kind of generate some ideas and things, I can throw it up on the screen and we can go from there. Is that where you want to start?
That's fine. I mean, unless you just had specific questions you just want to ask us. I mean,
Well,
otherwise,
here's
it might be easier to work from the workflow.
It probably would be, but the specific questions really have to do with how do you manage these guys, and what is your mission, and how do you sense that you're going to manage them, and then maybe we could go to the workflow from there.
When you say, what is our sense of how we're going to manage, so you're talking about sort of managing the compliance for the other units who go after grants or give out grants?
Whatever your compliance mission is, how do you do it?
Right.
Do you have them, each one of these groups, and you're going to have to name these groups. The only groups that I know are global and ICH. or CHI.
Yeah, global and CHI, because those are the two, other than extramural research, which we don't have any role over. CHI and global are the two significant groups at ACS that does grant making.
Okay.
But we also support other mission-related groups, or what we call programmatic departments, who seek out grants as well. So, you know, we sort of couch everything in terms of sort of pre and post award support. And, you know, on the pre-award side, it's providing assistance and guidance on those groups who are seeking out grants. So even at the earliest stages, we have a role in vetting those grant opportunities. So for an example, some unit might decide, and maybe the easiest way, not the easiest way, but one of the ways we could do this is sort of walk through a particular case study of how some of these things tend to work. But
yeah, well, let's do it that way. Let's do a pre-award, and I'm assuming that this applies for not just CHI and global. And can we use that word CHI? Can we say CHI?
CHI, well, CHI, they like CHI, they don't like CHI.
But they're not in the room.
Right.
So when we're, okay, I gotcha.
You know, Community Health Initiative, I guess that's what it stands for, yeah.
Okay,
but,
as long as we know our audience, then we're okay. So let's do this. If we're pre-award applies to not just CHI and global, but all these other programmatic departments that you're talking about.
Right, and in many ways it applied to them, some of the other ones even more so, because a lot of what global and CHI gets, well, global, a lot of their funding is what we call operational costs that they use to award out grants. I mean, there are going to be times when they actually go after a grant, but a lot of times they use ACS operating funds to fund their grant making. And CHI uses a combination of a variety of things. I mean, they, you know, from what we call cause marketing dollars to operational funds to gifts, and then there might be some grants thrown in there too. But there's a lot of different sources that fund their grant making. So there isn't a whole lot of grant seeking with those two units, although I think there will be some in the future, but it's more so with some of the other, what we call cancer control and or intramural departments in terms of the grant seeking.
Okay, so let's go through grant making.
Grant making or grant seeking?
A grant seeking, okay.
Okay.
Let's go through a grant seeking pre-award process.
Okay. So
and what your role, what SPO's role is currently, and what you want it to be. In fact, we could go with what you want it to be, because it's going to happen anyway, and that's how we're going to design the workflow, is what you want it to be, you know.
Right. Well, you know, one of the challenges of what we want it to be is getting to the point where we can clearly define what falls in SPO's bucket, meaning what are the true grants, because as ACS goes after so many different types of funding or funding sources, SPO, we're mainly concerned with what we call true grants, whether they, well, on the government side, we that clearly falls within SPO's bucket, but on the non-government side, we're trying to carve out those things that we define as true grants, as opposed to the gifts or just other type of stuff that's out there. But let's just assume a program department is going after a grant. We know it's a true grant. So our role is, in some cases, we might identify that opportunity. In other cases, the program people, they might identify that opportunity and bring it to us. So as part of our pre-award role, we also look for funding opportunities to bring to the program of mission people. So that's one of the things we do. So once an opportunity is identified, then we have a role in vetting that opportunity. And the way that is traditionally been done, and I don't know to the extent to which this might change a little bit, but is that people will then submit what they call a BOR, or Business Opportunity Review. The departments will submit a BOR, and that's just it's just a way of having a sort of like a triage sort of effect to determine if it's a grant, then the BOR will be forwarded to the sponsor programs office to review and to maybe ask additional follow-up questions about that opportunity. The whole idea is to just get a sense of whether or not, what are some of the requirements to not only apply for that fund, what are we going to have to comply with, and can we comply with those requirements?
Now,
we want to look at
SPO then. I'm sorry. SPO takes a look at the BOR, and they actually review the BOR to see if it is compliant with whatever rules.
What normally the BOR is a process where the mission-related departments who are going after money, they're proposing a concept. Now, in some cases, they're way beyond the concept. They're ready to apply. So we just treat it as an entry point, basically, as an engagement point. It's just a way in which we get engaged on the front end, and then we can follow up directly with the program folks to start beyond whatever they put in that BOR, because mainly the BOR really is for the highest level at ACS to decide, is this consistent with our mission? Whatever they want to propose, whatever concept it is it consistent with our mission? We then want to take that BOR and ask some additional questions about that funding. We want to know, what are some of the requirements to apply for that funding? For an example, we ask questions like, is the program, are they proposing any cost share? Are they trying to waive any indirect costs? Are they trying to hire new people on the grant? Are they going to be doing any subcontracting, sub-granting? We're trying to get a sense of all these things up front. Do we have a sense of whether or not, are there any intellectual property issues? We're just trying to vet it to ensure that, do we want to apply? Are there going to be any problems applying, putting together the application? And if we get awarded, do we anticipate any issues on the award side?
Okay.
So we have an initial vetting role. And once the decision, after that vetting done, the decision is made to go forward, we have some, lack of a better term, some portfolio managers who work work with the department, the program or mission people to, I don't want to say help them put together a proposal, but really to help to review the proposal and manage, to review the proposal as it's put together and to manage the workflow of that proposal, to make sure anybody who has to be looped in and be engaged, any other operational units that have to be engaged, they're engaged. Like for an example, is the department proposing any IT resources? Well, we want to ensure that IT is engaged to review that proposal to make sure any IT resources are properly vetted. So we sort of, as the proposals being put together, or the applications being put together, we review the requirements and ensure that we are putting that application together that's responding to the funders' requirements.
Now, okay, so the portfolio manager in this case goes back to a point of contact in SPO, or are they part of SPO?
They're part of SPO. SPO. We call them. They're actually SPO consultants. That's what they're called. That's the official title. They're sponsored program consultants. But I'm just saying, for lack of a better term, we just call them portfolio managers. They don't write any grants. They just work with the program people alongside. As the program people are developing the application to apply, we ensure that the application addresses the funders' application requirements, that it's put together in a way in which whatever the requirements are, like for an example, let's just say it was a government federal CDC proposal that said the narrative could only be 15 pages. Well, we make sure that the narrative is 15 pages, or we tell the program people, hey, your narrative is not 15 pages, you got to get it down to 15 pages. You know, we check all those requirements, all those application requirements.
Okay. Okay.
Or if the budget says, if there's a requirement that says, you know, your annual budget, it's a 3-year grant, your annual budget can't be over 200,000. We ensure that the budget is developed appropriately and that it meets those funders' requirements, and that it also meets our internal requirements. So we have internal requirements for calculating fringe and indirect, and we review that. In some cases, we'll help them develop their budget to make sure it's developed correctly.
Okay. Okay. So really what you do is in the vetting process, you have your legal and budget group and your executives from SPO take a look at the BOR and review it at a very high level to make sure that it's not kind of inconsistent with ACS's overall mission and maybe the programmatic mission.
Yeah, well, what happens is we have a separate legal unit and technically a separate finance unit, but we do have finance people in SPO. And while at the board stage, we don't really make the mission decision. We just want to make sure that whoever is making that mission decision has made it, basically. So we'll have the departments, whoever the ultimate VP, whatever that department rolls up to in terms of VP, that they basically approve that BOR as it relates to the mission. And then we vet it for other things. Again, some of those things I talked about. All the compliance vetting.
Okay. All right. Let me pull up that Visio, and let's see where we can go from there.
Okay.
Because I think they did a pretty decent job on this.
Yeah.
at least it's a good start. And the way we look at this, knock, is it's like a level 1, which means it's
Right,
a very high level.
right.
And underneath each one of these processes, like if you can see, I'm just circling around the proposal generation
Uh-huh.
box. There are a number of tasks and maybe other sub-processes associated with that.
Correct.
So it would go down to a level 2 and a level 3, and then maybe get down to just various tasks and requirements underneath that. So you just do the drill down as you go through that. I'm trying to bring this up front so I can actually just see how I can move this down. But let's see. Bear with me while I'm navigating this screen, guys. Richard, what's your thought on? I need to bring this up and down and shrink it some, and
Yeah, just use that.
well, I've shrunk it. So
Yeah, that
can
one
you
you
guys
can't
see we've got? You can't see it at all. Yeah.
I think you got to
That
do
was
it
my
in chunks. I would just make it bigger and just do it in chunks. Do it in, um,
Yeah.
just make it a little bigger.
Go down to
Let
the
me
bottom and
unlock
zoom
this.
in a bit more. Ken.
Let me see what I'm going to
Well,
bring it
actually,
over
y'all must
here.
have updated this because I haven't seen this version.
Okay. We can go to grant seeking. Can you guys see that grant seeking?
Yeah. So y'all must have updated. Did y'all work with Tony to update this?
Yeah, this is a version that Tony and Richard worked on.
Okay.
Then what I did was I put it in Visio, which I understand to be your diagrammatic enterprise software, just so Tony can update it, as we go through it, rather than having to get another piece of software. So this is in Visio, and it hopefully represents kind of what they did, what Richard and Tony did earlier in the other software piece. So it looks a little bit different, but I think the concepts and the processes are in the right swim lanes, and it's kind of parceled out the way it's supposed to be. So as we look at grant seeking, we see that there are two areas up here where the sponsor is. There's an opportunity and a reporting and payment kind of aspect. The opportunity notification, once it looks like the opportunity is identified, there's a notification of some sort then that goes down to the, in this case, CHI.
Well, I don't know about that.
It might go to internal programs, but I wouldn't identify global CHI.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily identify them, but anyway, let's just assume CHI was just another internal program. But
Yeah, we've got internal programs here, and
okay,
we've identified global and CHI under them.
okay.
I don't know if that is correct or not.
So what?
Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Well,
keep going.
is that okay? So it goes into Division 11, the opportunity.
What is that?
There are 11 divisions in CHI.
Yeah, but what does the division? Unless one of the divisions was, unless you're saying the division is actually seeking out this opportunity. I mean, I'm not sure.
I think what has happened here is that they've merged CHI grant making with our grant seeking process. Because in grant making, she
Uh,
does engage
that's right. She
individuals.
does. She does. Yeah, yeah. I see. I see.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that's probably what happened. Um,
So what are we looking at here then?
What we tried to do,
yeah, I think you're getting into really you're into the grant making side of the house,
Oh,
not so much grant seeking, because that's what might happen on the grant making side of the house. Chai might engage a division to help them host opportunities for the grants they give out to some of the health centers they work with. So, I mean, you sort of kind of mixing apples and oranges, basically.
no, what we tried to do,
okay.
Um,
what we tried to do was create one high-level document that included.
we can't hear
We
them.
can
Can I
barely
hear
hear
you,
him.
Richard?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Richard,
Yes.
can you speak up a little bit better?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
A
Thanks.
little, talk louder though.
All right. So what we tried to do was create one single workflow diagram that had the basic swim lanes for at a high level. Yeah, the 11 divisions aren't associated with grant making at this point, right? But they are associated with it further on in further down in the process. The so this internal programs is basically saying that either internal programs or SPO is identifying an opportunity. Once an opportunity is identified, a BOR is created. But the opportunity is identified at the sponsor, right? So
When you
a sponsor has an opportunity.
right,
It's getting identified somehow.
right,
Um, it's either coming in through internal programs, whichever internal program it is, or it's coming in,
okay.
or it's going to come in through SPO and bounce back around. But the idea is basically that an opportunity is generated, a BOR is developed, it's going to get reviewed within the program and then pushed down to SPO. Now we haven't defined exactly where in SPO it's going to come in. It may come in. It may come in on across many areas or many. So the groups within SPO that Tony and I identified were legal, contracts, budget, finance, project oversight, and basically OCCO.
Well, just for clarification, those are not units in SPO. Those might be stakeholders of SPO. I mean, there are other operating units,
Sure, sure.
but they're
Yeah,
not units in SPO.
sure.
Legal is its own separate unit. OCO contracts is its own separate unit. Finance is its own separate unit. I don't know what project oversight is.
So what we were thinking is that the functional role of SPO is to provide compliance in accordance with the overall organization mission. And so
Correct.
there's really, and I'm not sure who or what that function is or what it's called. And Tony was going to kind of do some research on that and find out specifically what that group is called or how that group should be referred to. But it seems like it's a.
What group is that, Ken?
Project oversight.
You mean you're trying to give a name to the overall compliance oversight
Yeah.
and all the groups who are involved in that?
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to define the roles that are functioning in the process. And in doing so, each of these roles will become system roles. And so if we have an approval chain or a workflow state that needs to take action on the board or on a grant opportunity or in any document at some point, that would be the role that would be taking that action. It would be routed to that group. They would say, oh, it's mine. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to do so, take some action, and I'm going to pass it on to the next group or sign off on it, etc. So those were the types of roles that we were trying to identify across internal programs and internal support, which is what we called it, SPO.
Uh,
Does that make
just, I wonder. I think I see where you're going, but I wonder if that complicates it. If it'd be easier to maybe sort of have generically let that role fall in SPO, let it be covered by, and then let SPO internally work with the other units to get the input, almost like let SPO be the bus driver. We'll drive the compliance bus, and we'll get the input that's needed from the other groups when they're needed.
so? When you say the other groups, you mean other groups like finance and legal and contracts?
Correct.
Okay, so when you say SPO, what you're really talking about is the project oversight bin or swim lane. Is that right?
Well, when
I
I
think
say
what we
SPO, I'm
could
talking
do,
about the sponsor programs office, but I'm not sure what you mean by the project oversight. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Knock, I think what you do is SPO actually coordinates with contracts, with legal, with budget, with finance,
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
right? I mean, you're the guys that point this bore or whatever documents that come through the organizational chain in the direction that needs review, and then you go back and you take a look after that review to see what other steps need to be taken. If it needs to go then to OCCO, or at what time it needs to go to OCCO, at what time it needs to go to legal. So your bus driver analogy, I think, is correct. In making SPO a separate swim lane, and each one of these other 5 or 6 different organizations like legal or contracts, budget, finance, separate swim lanes, then we can identify maybe a more precise workflow as you hand these different tasks off to those different organizations and then get feedback and decisions made from each one of those organizations. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's
Well, yeah, I am, but I guess the question would be, are we?
what we're trying to do is we're trying to define the roles that interact with the overall grants process across the board, right? So they each of these roles may not have a specific function or step to play in the process for the bore analysis, but they may have roles to play in the grants in the management of the grant further on, or some sign-off ability in the grant later on in the in the chain of custody.
So I guess the question then is,
Hold on 1 second. Can you give us 1 second, please?
Sure.
Give us 1 minute. We'll be right back.
Sure. Yep. You bet. Hey, Richard, are you there? Yeah, I can barely hear you. I don't know.
Some kind of like printer that's going on in the background.
The what?
It sounds like it's a printer going on in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, things are going out.
well, it could be me. I don't know, but
Okay.
um, what I see what's going on here. I think it's a matter of taking the SPO organization and really creating a true process, a real true process workflow diagram. And maybe we just need to sit with Knock um, and Tony and um, create the decision boxes and the processes and things that go on at those points. I think this is a good starting point.
Well, I think the idea was really to kind of capture the big picture buckets that everything kind of fit.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then because it's gonna bounce all over the place, and it would become a hodgepodge and a big mess if we tried to define everything one huge diagram or one little diagram.
Yeah.
It would be the horse blanket that wraps around all the walls in that big conference room. But what I was thinking was that in terms of generally where that Bohr analysis uh, box fits, I think it really just fits down into the project oversight um, lane. Yeah, right there, because
Yeah.
that for all intents and purposes, that really is SPO, right? That really is Knox Group. And I'm
Right.
not sure where proposal development fits. It may be in the same area, or it may be that it is occurring between project oversight and the program office. Sounds like it's a combination of the two groups kind of getting together and working things out. Um,
Yeah. I could see where after the analysis, it can go to finance, budget, contracts, and legal, and certain decisions can be made within each one of those groups after their review,
right.
and then it goes back down for a further and final analysis within oversight, and then the final review approval.
So in that that proposal development box that you have over contracts, go back to
Um,
come up from board approval right there. Board approval on proposal development in the contract swim lane.
well, I don't think it is. I think it's really more along those portfolio manager
That's
group that he was
exactly.
talking about.
But
Yeah,
I kind of think that the portfolio managers are bespoke consultants, so that almost needs to kind of be driven from that same swim lane.
right in here.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because
yeah, just drag that one down the bottom too.
yeah. And
Um,
I'll shrink it because I think that's the SPO consultant role.
right. And they're going to,
But what we have here is after the analysis, we've got we've got a box then that should be um, um, these are like divisional approvals and input.
right.
So this is like let's see, what should I say? Technical review.
That's a good.
So it comes down here.
We just discussing it out. Yeah. Okay.
Are you there?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, Tony just walked into the room too. So
Oh, hey, Tony.
what we were talking about was whether, and this is more of an internal thing for us, internal decision discussion. But obviously, since you're building the system for us, you need to know and get your input. But we're not sure on the grant seeking side, and particularly on the pre-award side of the grant seeking side, whether or not there's any place in which we would need to formally have a workflow engagement for those other units you have, legal, finance, and all that. Because we drive the process, and to the extent that we engage them, it's like very informal.
It's an ad hoc date that you're going to get out to them when you want to get out to them, right?
Actually, we can't. You must not be speaking right into the mic. We can barely hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said it's an ad hoc gate that you deal with.
We can't hear you, Richard. I'm sorry.
You hear me now? I don't know why it's so.
We can hear. We can barely hear you.
Okay. What I was saying was that it's really just an ad hoc process that you engage them when you need to engage them.
Right, like particularly on the grant seeking, on the pre-award side, somebody may put something in a proposal, say for an example, some lobbying or something, and like for example, we're basically doing a checklist of things, and then we might say, you know what, we need to have legal take a quick look at that, but basically we drive the process, and we'll bring them in if we need to bring them. If something they're trying to do for which we have to go, say they want to do something that in effect, say some cost sharing or something that we have to go to the CFO on, okay, well we'll elevate it up to the CFO and get their approval on it, but that wouldn't be an ongoing type of thing in which we have to have a workflow step in that unit.
But it might happen every once in a while. That's what I'm
trying to convey.
Okay.
That I don't know the degree to which we would have to build in workflow engagement steps for legal, contracts, or finance. At least not at this point anyway. Certainly not at the board stage, that's for certain. And I know you're not building this in for the board. You're building it in for any point in which we might need to engage them.
That's exactly.
I'm just trying to think.
Can we do this?
Yeah.
Tony, are you there?
I am here.
Okay. We're wondering, Tony, you use Visio, right? I mean, that's your kind of enterprise software?
Yes.
Okay, good. We've got it in the right format then. What I'm thinking is, if it's possible to take a look at this again, and between you and Knock, and I'll be happy to be a part of it. Richard, I know, would be too.
I think we can still go through this and just
kind of draw it out.
And then ask the questions you're going to ask in terms of what's involved and who's involved. Is that optimal? I think we can still go through the process. We can follow the steps. It's just that all the players may not necessarily be formally involved.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go through. Let's at least go through the grant making then. Okay.
Well, I think we should.
We need to finish it.
We need to finish the grant seeking. I don't think we should put it to the side. We just need to go through it and as we go through it, figure out what's involved.
Okay. So we've got the board analysis here, and what I've done is I've changed it, and I said, well, from a project oversight perspective, Richard and I were talking while you guys were getting Tony. You may decide that one of these groups need to review it. So you're going to have a technical review on maybe one or all of these guys, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Then once that's done, it may come back down to project oversight, and and I don't have a box in here for that,
All
but
right.
what it might come back down here, and you could say, okay, now the bore essentially is approved, right?
Right.
Then you can say, okay, now we can ship it down to OCCO.
It's OCOO.
Oh,
No. You told me, is that the Office of Chief Cancer Control Officer?
yeah.
Yeah, it's OCCCO. Should be three C's. Office of Chief Cancer Control Officer. Should be three C's. OCCCO, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, that's correct.
I know.
There is an
There is an OC, Office of Chief Operating. There is an OCOO too.
and an OCCO.
That's right.
There is, but that's legal.
That's legal, right. Office of Corporation Counsel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So-
it is correct. We call it legal, but it's Office of Corporation Counsel.
Okay.
All right.
So this is your triple CO.
Who has the final sign off on the application, on the proposal, the go no go decision on the proposal, on the
Say
opportunity?
what now?
Who has the final go no go decision on the opportunity?
On the opportunity, I imagine
Right now, it's Gail, isn't it?
it is, but I think ultimately from a mission point of view, it's probably going to be the Chief Cancer Control Officer for those things that fall in that area, and then if it's research, it'll be the Chief Medical Officer, but really, I guess it'll probably really be Liz Ward, who's the VP. It's going to be a VP in intramural, which you don't have up here. That's
I thought intramural was out of scope.
No, extra.
no, extramural is out of scope. Intramural is in scope. Yeah.
Okay.
Then the divisions, we're kind of still working on that piece, but for now, we'll say the Chief Cancer Control Officer would ultimately have the final say.
So this is a right box in here at this point.
It's the right box. You just don't have all the players there, but that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So once the final approval is made down here by the OCCO,
Mm-hmm.
then the project begins to be, or the proposal begins to be developed by your consultant, right?
Well,
Along
so
with-
really, that's the program people. They'll develop the proposal.
So the internal
So-
program.
Internal program.
Okay. So we're gonna, but doesn't
There's one box for the proposal consultant, which is in the which is in SPO, and then there's also a box or a group of boxes in the in internal programs to actually develop the proposal.
yeah.
Okay, where is that?
Well, it's not on the diagram right now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
the
going to be in just a
proposal-
second.
Hmm.
So we bring it down here.
That's different though. That's registration. Isn't that on the grant making side?
No, we're not gonna. This is proposal development.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You just switched it. Okay.
Forgive my spelling, guys. I'm just
Okay, that's
Okay.
good. All right.
so now we got proposal development up here, right?
Right.
So all these guys then do your proposal development, and then this goes up here, and the proposal is actually submitted.
Yeah. SPO, we submit the proposal.
Right.
Who does?
SPO.
So it's coming back to the proposal coordinator, right? The capture manager. The capture manager is then gonna. So the original line that was going from the proposal development down in the bottom, yeah, that bottom one, going all the way up to the top, that was correct.
Oh, I see. Okay. So,
It's just a
so this proposal submission needs to really come down to SPO.
We submit it to the sponsor. Yeah, we submit it. We're the ones who submit the proposals to the sponsor. At least
Oh, I
in,
see.
in the
Okay.
in the you know the in the
So
utopian state.
yeah, okay. So the proposal development, it's done. Then it comes back to you for you to actually submit the proposal.
Well, of course,
Um,
I don't know where you want to show this, but we review it.
okay.
You know, in some cases as they develop it, in many cases after they develop it. There's a review process,
right. There's a
and
final.
then
All right.
assuming
Let's put that in best we can. Um, and who does that? Project oversight?
well, it's done by SPO, but I get whatever y'all are referring to as project oversight. I'm not even sure what that means, but maybe that's what it means.
Yeah.
It means
That's you guys, not that's you.
Oh, that's us. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe what y'all should have
So
done is
what I'm gonna
called maybe I should have called that something else on that tab, and then just called SPO on the smaller tab. But anyway, we can
Oh, yeah.
figure that
That
out.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Repeat that?
We all call internal support. Maybe I should call it internal support, and then
leave
put
off the SPO.
leave the SPO off, and then
SPO instead of project.
right instead of project oversight, just put SPO there. Yeah.
We're hearing some background noise. Not quite sure what that is.
Yeah, Richard was saying the same thing, and I'm not sure what it is either. It could be my machine. I don't know if it's spinning. It sounds like something's printing.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like.
You know what? Why don't we do this?
Okay.
Why don't I end this session, dial it up again, and we can all dial back in and see if that clears that up. And hopefully that will address my volume control as well.
Okay, so not the go-to meeting, but just the number.
We could do that.
Well, let's go back to the same go-to meeting session. But if we get out of it and come back in again, hopefully it will clear up.
Okay.